I mean, I felt guilty almost. Like, I felt like a burden. My parents were constantly, taking off work, taking days off, taking me to the doctor's office and sitting in there with me for hours at a time, sitting through procedures and surgeries hours at a time. I felt like I had wasted their time already. I didn't want to bring up that, hey, this thing you've spent hours on and paid thousands of dollars for didn't work. So, technically what I have wrong is a mutation in the PTEN gene. It's like a tumor suppressant gene. Basically, it's kind of like cancer, but it's not because it's benign. Like, those bad cells are like tumor cells back there. Instead of being able to be killed out by the body, like, they just replicate and replicate and replicate and keep growing and keep causing problems.
So your body doesn't know to attack a substance that's in your body that would turn into a tumor or a tumor itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
But P10 is the gene itself.
Yes.
Right.
So really, everything kind of started about 8 years ago. I started having like this really difficult pain in my back here, like right underneath my shoulder. Like, I remember being at a church camp and like going up to play volleyball and feeling something just ache back there miserably. So I came home, like we went to the doctor for it. We just general practitioner.
Yeah.
They passed it off. They were like, "Oh, it's just a lipoma. Like, it's just this weird little ball of fat back here. If you get that cut out, you'll be fine." But it's an outpatient surgery. We go the same day. But our surgeon tells us that it wasn't that simple. It turns out that little node right there that was causing me that much pain actually was connected to something that was so much bigger. Like, that took up from almost like the top of my back here all the way down to my spleen, I think they said.
Gosh.
Yeah, massive.
But when you say it was attached to something, what was it attached to? Like a muscle you're saying was that long? Or what was that long you're saying?
The like tumor that was in my back.
Whoa.
Like, what they wanted to cut out just that day was just only one little branch of it.
And is that the only tumor that you've ever had?
Yeah, I have one down in my calf now, but that's something we've only discovered like in the past year. So
When you tore your ACL?
We found it before.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
But then you tore your ACL.
Yeah.
Gosh, come on, Emma. Come on. Your parents can't take more of these things like ACL injuries.
My parents, I'm the one having to live with all this.
Did it affect your relationship with your family?
I think it made me more of a private person. Like, my mom knew if like I was outwardly crying or complaining about something hurting, she knew that I was in pain because I wasn't a person to whine and complain about being in pain all the time. I was pretty stoic about things, but like, I knew that they worried about me. I knew that they were going through all the things that I was going through right there with me. But also, I didn't want to tell them the brunt of everything that I was feeling because I didn't want them to worry more than they already were. On days that I still hurt, I'm like, they fixed the problem. I'm embarrassed almost for hurting sometimes because I feel like I shouldn't have anything to worry about. I feel like I should be getting better faster, but I'm not. And that, like, is still kind of a guilty feeling.
What gets you through your worst day? Is it like, do you like music, or is it, Netflix or something like that, or is it something that you've had to tell yourself all these years? Like, what enables you to get through your bad days?
I mean, just other people. Like, I know that I have friends that look up to me. I came and told my story at church the other day, and the amount of people that came up to me that were like, "You're an inspiration. Like, you're my hero. You're a warrior for this." And the fact that I have people behind me that are looking up to me and want the best for me, that's what keeps me going.
So community.
Yeah.
So let's go back to you being pain-free. right? You've gone through this crazy ordeal. You've gone through pain for 8 years. And then this is July. So 2 months ago, you had the tumor removed.
Yes.
How long was it?
It was like a 7-hour surgery.
Yeah. Or was it, I mean, give me a length.
Like length?
Like that. Yeah, in your back. And this has been in there for
Yeah.
8 years, causing just crazy stuff going on. Talk to me about that moment that you came out of surgery. Did you feel it right away, or were you still feeling like the surgical pain?
It wasn't felt right away. Like, I was still kind of groggy, still hurt for the first couple of days. But, like, once I got home, I started getting back to normal life again. Like, it started setting in that, like, I'm okay now. Like, I don't have to deal with this. They told us the risk of it coming back ever was incredibly minuscule. Like, nothing to worry about.
Wow, that's incredible. So what was that relief, though? So from 5 years, 8 years, but from 5 years where you probably starting to plug into, okay, this is what's going on. I'm sure from how smart you are. By the way, like I said earlier, 2 perfect scores on your ACT? 2?
Yeah.
Why'd you go back and take it again is my question. Huh? Oh, that's a look to mom and dad? Oh.
Yeah, that was a parental decision.
Oh, okay.
I had a 32 and they wanted a 33 or 34.
Oh, yes, of course. I think I had a 29, that's all I'm saying. I gotta go back and look. 29.
Yeah, that's still good.
Yeah, it's not 32 though, is it? What would you tell someone that just found out that their PTEN gene is turned off?
I'd say be vigilant about going to the doctor. Like, they are there to help you, but always advocate for yourself. Like, if you think you need to have something done, advocate for yourself. Like, push. If your doctor tries to tell you no for something, ask them why they think that. Like, why are they trying to turn you down? But also, on the other side of things, more positive side of things, things are better than they think you are. Like, there are good solutions to this. And whereas, yeah, you do have to live with this mutation for the rest of your life, because that is in your genes, and there's no way to get around that. But that's not the end of the world. And that's something I've had to tell myself a lot as well. Like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I'm stuck with this, but it's okay. Like, there are things that can be done about this, and things will get better, or they'll seem better.
Have you ever struggled with that question of why am I going through it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tons of times. There were mornings where I'd lay face down in bed because it was the only comfortable position and wonder why me? Like, what have I done in this life or a past life or to be burdened with this, going through my teen years? There's no good way for a doctor to sit in an office and tell a teen girl, we don't know how to fix you. We don't know what you've got wrong. We don't know how to fix this. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to send you somewhere else.
Yeah. Every time you get moved to somewhere else, did you feel rejected, or did you feel lost? Like, what's the emotion as a teenage girl without having the answers until about 1.5 years ago?
I mean, it was just disheartening. It started to feel like we wouldn't ever have an answer for this. Before we got referred to Boston, who was confident that they could fix this, I didn't know if we'd ever have a fix for this. I mean, we just had these little Band-Aid patches here and there that would help me for a few months, but then it'd start hurting again. And it was just disheartening. I felt rejected. I did feel lost. Nobody knew what was wrong with me. Nobody knew how to fix me. And, being a teenage girl is tumultuous enough as it is, but having to take that and compounded with the doctors don't even know what's going on with my body, that was just terrible. It took a huge weight on me.
Whatever's getting built in you, because I can see it. I can see like the strength in your eyes. Do you feel like a strong person? You don't, do you?
Not
right?
really.
People don't feel strong when they're going through their troubles and their struggles. They don't. In fact, all of us feel really weak when it's our struggles. But I see the strength in you that can only be built through the resiliency that comes along with not having the answers and still having to go through it anyway and coming through on the other side, because you're not going to come out unscathed. No one comes out of life, no one gets to the end of their life unscathed by life. None of us would have wished that you go through this story, this chapter of life. Like, no one would have put this hardship on you or anybody else, right? I would never want my worst enemy, I would never want their PTEN gene to be turned off, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's what's so hard, and I think that there's a lot of people that's probably watching and listening to your story, wondering how you've gotten through it, and knowing that, yes, community is very important. Understanding what we believe on a personal level, all of those things are really important. What would you tell that person, Emma, that maybe it's not PTEN, right, dealing with their PTEN gene? Maybe it's cancer, maybe it's just, they haven't had a car in 6 months, whatever issue, it could be a bad marriage, but every day they're having to work through this gnawing pain, like a tumor, 18-inch long tumor in their back. Maybe it's a metaphorical tumor in their back. How does somebody, because not everyone chooses to fight through it. Like, some people choose to just give up. They throw their hands up. I don't know the answer. I definitely don't see the finish line to this struggle. And sometimes I think that that's the hardest, when people don't know where the finish line is. Then they don't know how hard to run, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm amazed that you've continued to run as hard as you have along the way to get it. And the fact that your finish line, it may not be I don't want to say that May, when they got the tumor out, that was a finish line, because I know that you're still working through this. You just had your thyroid removed a couple weeks ago. But you see that there's light. You see that the tunnel is not necessarily ending, but you see the light, and you know that where you're going are things beyond what you're dealing with today. Your life and who Emma is as a human being is so much bigger and greater than your hardship. That's the value of all of this. So how would you encourage me to keep going through what I'm going through now, the hardship I'm dealing with, in hopes of what's to come and what's beyond that?
Shoot,
and it doesn't even have to be deep. It's your own story on what you've experienced, what's helped you the most, and what you think someone should be focused on.
Well, the way I've always gotten out of it is I've had to remind myself that this is not me. Like, what I've been going through, that's not my defining trait. Like, I am my own person outside of this. And while this has taught me different things, I've come out on the other side of this, not even on the other side, with resilience, with maturity. Like, back a few years ago at the beginning of this, I was that kind of person that just wanted to throw up their hands. I didn't know what to do. I was lost. But after pushing myself through this and keeping going and staying on this path, like, things aren't worth giving up. Even if the answer is, 8, 10, 12 years in the future, it's worth staying on that path, because there is a light at the tunnel, no matter how long the tunnel is for you. And there are people around you who love you, even if it doesn't seem like it. Shoot, I've had to remind myself that there are people around me who love me, even if I'm sitting on my own, like, full of depression, full of guilt, full of a sense of being a burden. I had to remind myself that there are people who care about me, and there are people who care what I'm going through.
Why did Disney, when I got to originally talk to your dad, and we talked about, hey, what would help you, right? Why was your answer Disney? I'm curious.
Well,
going to Disney, excuse me.
Yeah.
Going to Orlando, going to Disney. Have you been before?
Yeah, but only one time in recent memory. But, I mean, to me, that's just kind of the peak epitome of just, like, kid having fun on vacation. Like, going to Disney World, like, specifically Epcot, because that was my favorite part.
Okay.
I was obsessed with everything that was in there. Huh. And I had so much fun there, but I was in pain the entire time. Like, I was hurting. And now that I'm over this hill, I want to be able to go back there and live it out. Like, I want to be able to do everything that I want to do while feeling like a normal kid, not having to think about the burden of everything that I've been going through and everything that I am going through on my shoulders.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'll tell you this. So the time that I locked into your story, when I was first time I was talking to your dad, and take me back to the night, and this was after May, and this was before your thyroid got removed. So your tumor's out. It had to be in June, but you had a fluid buildup sometime, and you spent hours in the ER.
Ooh.
This was probably a month ago, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. And you came back, and your dad, who I can already tell, like your relationship with your parents are so great, and he was saying that you're always an upbeat person. And it was one of the first times during this whole time that when you came back that next day and you guys got back home, he said it was kind of the first time that in recent memory he could remember you being pretty dejected. And you came back and you go up to your room, and your dad told me the story, because as he was telling me this, it was like, this will stick with me the rest of my life, all right? But you had gotten back up in your room, and he said you were very quiet. Like you were, now part of that's probably exhausted from being in the hospital.
Yeah.
But he could tell your whole countenance was different. Do you remember what your dad said to you?
Can't say that I do.
So he said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dad, but he looked at you and he said, I know what you're thinking. You are not a burden to this family. Do you remember that moment?
Yes.
Is that how you were feeling in that moment?
Yes. That's how I feel a lot of moments.
So what was it in that moment when your dad came up, said that to you, hugged you? What did you feel?
I mean, just relief, I guess. That's one of my first thoughts that I always think. I'm like, I feel bad. I feel bad for putting them through this, but having that reassurance that, like, no, you're not. It's not your fault. It's okay. Like, that made me feel a whole lot better.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I get like the best job in the world, getting to meet people like you and doing these things, because I'm not going to speak for your dad and your mom and pretend that I'm in the room and that I've been in the hospital with you and going through that, but I confidently tell you, just on the way that your parents talk about you and getting that phone call with your dad, I know for a fact you're not a burden on anybody. And when we talked about you going to Epcot, enjoying Star Wars again, being a kid again, right? Remembering, because you're right, like that experience of the magic that comes along, and this is not a Disney even a promotion, right? But the magic that comes along with you being in that environment of experiencing the magical moments of your dreams and your aspirations and what you're wanting to go and do, like that in a way was stolen from you years ago. The reason why I'm so excited about sending you to Disney is not because your family would struggle to do it on their own, right? It's not about that. It's not about not being able to afford that. It is for one reason and one reason only. And I want you to know that, because this is very important. It is to have your parents back and supporting you, because this is all of the efforts that's going into this, that's been going into this, is to reassure you and tell you one major thing, that you are nothing but a blessing to your family, and you are a blessing to your parents, and you really are. And I know that most days you don't feel that way, especially on those struggles, on the bad ones, and the ones when you do go and you end up reclusing. But I want you, when you go to Disney with your family, with your family not having to think about the elements that come along with scheduling that trip, and that they can just focus on loving you. That's why I'm excited about my wife being she's a Disney travel agent. So I cannot tell you how much we've put into this thought about, like, okay, if we put her here, then there's this Disney Skyliner, so they can go back and forth, and we can do this and we can do that. Because the whole idea of you being down there to enjoy Epcot is, yes, you need to remember the magic and to know that you've got, like, you have things built in you in the last couple of years that no one would want you to have to go through to get them, but they're gonna put you somewhere in this life and build things in you that you literally are gonna cause these ripple effects in the world that you don't know you're gonna do yet. But that's the positive aspect of the things that you're having to go through. But I want you to go to Disney and have those moments with your parents. And as your dad, he's in law enforcement. He's going to be checking everybody out, going through the parks, right? Making sure everything's safe and good. I want you to enjoy those moments because he's doing those because he's being the best. He's being the best version of himself. Your mom's going to be the best version of herself. Your brother, 12, who I understand is a wild man, right? We're going to get him in the parks. And I want you to just not only remember what it is like to be a kid and to dream and to know that your best days are truly ahead, but I want you to walk away from that whole weekend knowing that you are a blessing and that there's a bunch of random strangers that are going to give money, not because they have to or anything. It's because they are literally going to be sending money to make sure that it's like their token to say, hey, Emma, you've not met me, but you're a blessing to me too, right? You're a blessing to your family and you're a blessing to a lot of people that you will never meet. And that's the only value that someone going through hardships really should be able to take from that. Like, yes, the victory of going through this stuff is important. But the stuff that you're going to be able to put into other people is incredibly valuable. So let us take this opportunity just to put something good into you, which are just some good memories and time with your family. And if because you probably wouldn't listen to your parents as much if they were like, you're not a burden. You're not a burden to us, right? Because you don't believe it.
Yeah.
There's a whole community, and all we're doing is we're not stepping in the way of your parents to tell you that. We're pushing your parents, forcing you to look at your parents in the eyes, knowing, and with us just getting your attention long enough to let you know you are not a burden to anybody. You're a blessing to them, you're a blessing to your family, you're a blessing to me, and you're a blessing to a lot of people that you haven't even met yet, okay?
Okay.
Lastly, where are you going this fall? You're graduating.
Yes.
Did you graduate early? You're going to be 18 in next May? You just...
Yes. Well, I skipped a grade, technically.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
So I finished high school at 17.
And you're going to App State?
Yes.
Okay, what are you going to study?
Political science.
Yeah? What are you doing that for?
I want to be an attorney, like specifically medical malpractice cases.
So you've seen enough issues.
Oh, yeah, plenty.
Yeah. So what would you do after App State? So 4 years of poli-sci, you get your degree. Do you have law school?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the plan.
So you already you're down the path on where you want to go after that.
I've been thinking ahead for a while.
Yeah. When you've painted the vision of the medical malpractice stuff, what do you imagine doing? Like, what's the situation that you would paint, that you would say, I can't wait to step in professionally and affect this?
I mean, a lot of people want to side with the hospitals just because, that's where the money is. But I want to be on the side of, families who have been, wronged by hospitals, wronged by doctors, mistreated. I mean, I have been in that situation. I've been a kid miserable at how hospitals and doctors have treated me. So I want to step in there and be able to be there for them, help them get what they need.
Yeah, perfect. If you had one last thing of encouragement to whoever's ear canal is on this microphone on the other end, what would you tell them?
I guess that everything's going to be okay. It may not look like it now. It may not look like it in the next 5 years, next decade. There is answers out there. There are answers. No matter what, things will be okay.